Hey guys, it's been quite some time since I posted last time a chatty video, so this is going to be one of those. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the midterms went, and I think I talked about how the first two went, but I didn't say anything about how the third one went, which was absolutely weird. I've never had a situation like this before. So this is going to be one of the things. And also I wanted to talk a little bit about how to deal with big workload if you have a lot of assignments to complete and many other tasks that come up, especially as a mature student. um, Things do come up, and that was the case for the past 2 weeks. We've been sick, we've been taking turn being sick, me, the kids, and my husband. Everyone took turns, and in fact my youngest is still sick and I missed a test today. um, Life happens and I can't do anything about it, and all of that big workload in terms of assignments and also being sick prevented me from filming in the past 2 weeks regularly, and yeah, it kind of sucks. I really wanted to keep up with daily uploads, but it just wasn't possible. So back to the midterms. The first two midterms went not as I hoped they would be, and it seems to be a tradition by that point. I usually don't do quite well in the midterms. Anyways, it went how it went. I'm okay. I passed them. It's good. I'm gonna make up for this with all the extra homeworks that we have, all the group works, hopefully on the finals as well. And I've been working really hard in the past 2 weeks to make sure I submit every single homework that I had, every single assignment, and complete every test. Well, except today's. Well, I had no control over this. Because I promised myself I'm not missing any homeworks. And also, it's just one of those things where I learn the most, I think. Because the homeworks now in the third year and physics courses are quite long, and each problem tends to be quite long and really conceptual. Like, you have to think of what you're doing. It's not just math by this point anymore. So, but with the midterms, with the first two being on the same day, on the February 12th, it was really not to my advantage for sure. I didn't do the homework that I was supposed to be doing on a regular basis, like basically at least a problem every day, to keep up with the amount of stuff I had to solve and to make sure I keep the deadlines. And so I kind of put it aside, prepared for the midterms, and then once the midterms were over, I started doing the homeworks, and then I didn't have enough time to complete the first one and then the second one, and started the snowball. And I started panicking a little bit, like, what do? I don't want to give up that grade, and I really want to finish the homework 100%. For the first time ever in my degree, I asked for help. I approached the professors and asked for an extension because there was no way for me to complete those assignments in time. Because how I used to think about this before is that if I would ask for an extension, I wouldn't think it's fair to other classmates, and it's also kind of a sign of weakness. I don't know. I really didn't want that. I would rather skip the homework and not hand it in completely than ask for an extension. I know it was a totally weird thing to think, but this time I kind of decided to try it out. And the professors were super helpful, and they were more than happy to help. Especially is that I'm not using it too much. I asked for it once, and I really hope I won't have to ask for it again, because the period of the midterms messed things up with my schedule. Yeah, so I couldn't keep up. Now back to the midterm. It was thermodynamics midterm that was quite weird, and it was the one that I also missed. I couldn't come to the exam because I got sick, after like one of my kids was sick, and then a couple of days later I got sick. And but the thing is that on that day when we wrote the midterm, well, except me, nobody passed. Like the next day, we received an email from our professor saying that everybody failed miserably. Like not even one person passed the test, the midterm. And so we were given that exam as a take-home exam to rewrite. So that one was one extra assignment on top, basically, which I had to deal with. That weird situation with the midterm that everybody failed was quite a wake-up call. Nobody expected this. And what I think has happened, and also our professor told us that, we are sometimes thinking about things too mathematically. Like we get caught up in the math a lot without really understanding what that math is describing. And so what he wants us to do is that we understand what's happening physically. And if we would have had this understanding, the midterm actually could have been done easily. Yeah, so that just shows that we are not always studying things properly. I do think that the midterm was not super easy, especially maybe not for 50 minutes that we had available to complete, but I do think that at least a reasonable amount of people could have had gotten at least a C plus on it or something like this. But everybody failing was a very unexpected thing to happen. And really, I think now everybody is just, how do I study for this class? And this is one of the things that also made me to rethink my study strategy, how I do study. And so I'm probably going to post a lot more videos on thermodynamics from this point on, just because I do firmly believe that if you want to learn something, teach it. I've heard that somewhere, it's not my quote, but I do want to try and use that method. I think it's also one of the Feynman's famous study techniques that, when you know something is when you can explain it to somebody else in the simple words. I'm not exactly sure if I will attempt to explain anything to you guys, but I will. I have an idea to do kind of chapter summaries from the textbook to try to summarize information we're learning in a conceptual way, and maybe do a couple problems. But the main point is that this is supposed to be also a learning process for me and help me to prepare for the upcoming final, because I don't want to be in stress anymore. I don't want to rush through the whole process of preparing, because I know if I have too much to study in a very little time, I get panicky, like I panic and I cannot start studying, because I know, well, it's all pointless, I can't possibly learn it all, and so I just don't study at all. It's one of my problems, and I want to avoid that. That's so much to the midterm we had. Did you guys ever had such situation? It's very interesting how that can happen. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you've heard about this last week. Yeah, I've got some good comments about that as well. Long story short, to summarize the moral of those last 2 weeks, I am really glad that I was able to keep promises to myself to work diligently on the homeworks, not to skip any, and I have been able to do that with every single assignment so far. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is just, if you ever need help, don't be afraid to ask. The professors are also people, they also do understand, and they will more likely than not work with you to work something out. Basically, it's not only in your interest to do well, they also want you to do well. And if you are tempted to skip an assignment because you don't know what to do, or you're running short on time because whatever, something might have happened, like life happens, it's better than you ask for an extension, maybe lose a little bit of the grade, and you still get the majority of your assignment mark, then you don't submit an assignment at all, and you won't miss the opportunity to learn, because solving problems is a great way to learn. On those assignments that I skipped in previous semesters, I never came back to redo them. I never put in any effort because I always felt short in time, and well, the deadline was no longer there, so there was no extra pressure to help me do it. And I know that the deadlines are not supposed to be the only thing that drives you when you're working towards something, but they definitely do help. And so it was 1,000 times better for me to ask for help, ask for that extra time, and work through every single problem. I've learned a bunch of stuff, like a great deal of information through that process, and I wouldn't want to miss that. Have a good day, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.